Everyone who has millions started from zero, from this to that, from nothing to everything. As a divine healer, let me show you the blueprint to heal your deepest wounds, step into your destiny, and become the happiest person you know. My name is Steph Mahony, and welcome to your MDL Podcast. We all face trials, obstacles, and we get tested in our inner wound where it's so hard to face that we feel like giving up. And this past week has been my situation too. But in my darkest moment, I'm going to share today the 8 words that I heard from divinity, which is what helped to transform and propel me upwards, to rise above, to walk through the fire and not smell like smoke. Hello, everybody. My name is Steph Mahony. I'm a divine channel healer and the founder of $1 Million Life, a life that has nothing to do with money and everything to do with feeling like $1 million. It is the beauty that shines from within you when you're healed, transformed, and step into your higher purpose. Your $1 Million Life is your best life, and this podcast is a roadmap of how to get you there. Today, we're going to talk about test trials and how you are meant to actually face them, walk through them, and rise above them. So many of us deal with tests and trials, betrayals, with negativity, but negativity added and multiplied to negativity just increases the darkness around you, and it increases the darkness that you bring within you. And as we know with the law of attraction, it's not what we attract what we want, we attract who we are. So if we have darkness within us, when somebody does bad to us and we hold this revengeful spirit, this fearful spirit, this place of anger and bitterness within us, this is the spirit of what's going to continue to attract into your life more situations that keep you re-experiencing and reliving dishonesty, betrayal, lying, cheating, scandals, unhappiness, unworthiness, whatever it is that you're holding into your heart is what you will continue to relive. And the reason this happens is because the universe itself is neutral, but life and destiny are brought to us and shown to us through the form of choices. So we may not have a conscious understanding of why these situations are coming to us, but it's our choice on how we respond to us, which will either determine whether we propel upward or if we propel downward. And it's our choice to make. One of the stories that I love saying is the story with 2 men and an alcoholic father. 2 boys were born of an alcoholic father. One ended up being a very successful businessman, whereas the other ended up becoming an alcoholic too. When asked, "Why are you this way?" they both responded, "Because my father was an alcoholic." 2 boys from the same circumstances chose to take the pain that they witnessed, and one chose to become better, and one mirrored that pain and became bitter and became that themselves. So this is the test of life that I want you to begin to look at through the lens of everything that you see. Life and destiny come to you in the form of choices, but you get to choose how you respond on a case-by-case basis. Yes, we're meant to feel emotion. Yes, it's okay to feel anger. Yes, it's okay to cry. And actually, that is the best thing that you can do when life throws you down, because crying is a release. It's allowing this pent up negative energy to leave your system. Many times in this place of toxic positivity, we're living in this world where we're supposed to be perfect and always have to have it together. And what happens is that we hold this anger within us by suppressing it, pretending it isn't there, and that it doesn't exist. And what happens is that this energy is circulating within us and eventually manifests itself into illness, into attracting like energy back into your system. So what you're meant to do is this: when you're faced in the trial of fire, there's a situation in your life that you're unhappy, you've been wronged, and you're feeling so frustrated. The first thing you need to do is have a radical acceptance of this is what it is. The reason you need to do that is because if it's happening in your timeline, it was meant to happen. All of the angels, the ascended masters, your ancestors know the blueprint of what you charted to experience. And if there's something that was not meant for you, it wouldn't come into your timeline. But if it did happen, it's not a coincidence that there is either a learning for you or perhaps a group learning for you, the other person, or all of the people involved. So if tragedy strikes, you need to understand that this was meant to happen in my life, and I need to understand what the lesson is. When you can understand by rising up from the energy of chaos, that's the only time you'll be able to have a higher level perspective to perceive the wisdom. You can't solve problems in the same energy that they were created in. You have to rise above them. So seeing it through the lens of acceptance, not accepting that this is what you want and not accepting that this is always going to be like, but this is what I'm faced with right now. And I'm going to look at this for what it is instead of pretending it's not happening. So see it for what it is number one. Number two, I want you to step into the power of the creator of your universe. If you have any choice, your choice is to see both sides of the same coin. You are able to see the situation from what it is, from your point of view and the other perspective's point of view. When you can see it from this place, you can understand the perspective, the line of thought from both sides of the same coin. All of us are from the light. And I truly believe that when we're wronged, when we're facing circumstances that are really, really hard, it's our ego that always wants to make us right. It's our ego that always wants us to prove everybody wrong. But you have to know that coming from the light, all of us have intentions in this world to do good. And it could be that in this place that there was an understanding that wasn't in alignment. Maybe you're very healed and you can see very clearly what the solution is. You can see very, very clearly what the pathway of doing right is. But if a person wasn't raised in that, it doesn't mean that they're a bad person. It means that they're making bad choices. It could be that they weren't taught properly. It could be that they're dealing with a lot of trauma on their own and they're doing their best to overcome it with what they know and what they have. And you have to find this place of forgiveness. So understanding both sides of the same coin allows you to then rise above it and make a choice. Sometimes here is where we get stuck, because how could I ever forgive somebody who's purposely wronged me, or a situation that's thrown me sideways when I'm a really good person? The thing that I was told to do in my own trials this week is to bless them. When I was betrayed, when I was dealing with situations of even fraudulent activity that I was faced with, I couldn't believe that this was happening to me. And I decided that I knew instinctively through autopilot that I'm always going to take the high road to become better and not bitter. But it was really hard in the face of tragedy to to feel this. And the first thing that came to me was Stephanie, bless them. And what happens is when you bless a person who's wronged you and sincerely blessing them, the very first thing that happens is that their hardened shell around them becomes softened. Their crown chakra that's so hardened, their inner vision, which is so hardened, becomes softened, where they finally perhaps see for the first time a higher level perspective. They're perhaps for the first time feeling the emotion of remorse, to see how their actions might have harmed you. And they now, for the first time, have guilt, a consciousness of, oh my gosh, I did something wrong. And it's only when this happens that a person can truly change. Because like Martin Luther says, you can't fight darkness with darkness. You can only fight darkness with light. And when you bless your enemy, it's not forgiving them with the absolution that what they did was okay, but you're finally opening up a portal for their guides, their angels, their ancestors to work through them, to show them a higher pathway. And through all the conviction that happens within us when we realize that we've done something wrong, those are the change makers in this world that finally rise up in their power and do something miraculous. This is where we can create united change. And maybe this is something you'll never know that has ever happened. Or maybe they'll come to you with an apology that I am so sorry that I did this. Please forgive me. This is the place where I want us to come to, is blessing them. Something else that I was told through divinity is that instead of being sunken in the energy of victimhood, they whispered in my ear, and these are the 8 words that changed everything in this moment. What they said is that instead of seeing the reality of my circumstances, look at the reality of vast potential, the reality of miracles. And the 8 words are, I choose to see miracles instead of this. I choose to see miracles instead of this. I choose to see miracles instead of this. Through free will, we get to choose if we're going to be better or bitter. And through this affirmation, you are now opening up a portal in your own life to choose to see miracles instead of whatever looks like is happening in this current state. When you choose to see miracles, you're opening up the world of possibility. And it's not your job to figure it out. It's not your job to make all of your wrongs right. It's not your job to fix anybody. You're not meant to fix a broken world. You're not meant to fix broken people or situations. You are meant to live your best life. And when you can do that by choosing to see miracles instead of this, what happens is that you increase your own frequency. You take all of the darkness around you and you bless it with light. And you bless and you fill yourself up with light. And because you're at a higher frequency, you open your mind to higher level solutions, to higher level thoughts, to higher level possibilities. And you become connected with higher level realms of divinity who are going to help you to open and activate the miracles that are going to manifest in your life. This is what is able to create the everlasting change, because when you're lit up inside, then every single person around you becomes lit up too. They learn from you. You can't change anybody, but you can inspire everybody. You could be the teacher of people's life, to be like, wow, my mother is going through such a hard time, but look how she's facing this. Look how she's rising above this. Look how she's still choosing to become a better person and bless this person and bless everything around her. And when you're in this frequency of miracles, everything is going to manifest and unfold in the blink of an eye. And that is what's happened for me. I was faced with a person who took my money, actually various people who suddenly just were betraying me out of circumstances, the wolf in sheep clothing, and even taking my money and walking away with it. And I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe it. And in my heart, I just wanted to fix everything. And I was like, I can't believe people would do this. And I just wanted to write letters. I was like ready to like knock on people's doors. And I was being told to just let it all go. Like, what is my higher level solution? My higher level solution is that I want everything to come back to normal. Like, I just want to be made whole. I really just want my money back. I want to be in a place of peace. And I don't want to think about these people because I'm going to learn from this, but I don't want to harbor this in my heart. And after I began saying, I choose to see miracles instead of this, all of the spikiness that was happening in my heart was starting to neutralize, and I was feeling calmer. And that allowed me to bless them with more sincerity. And then all of a sudden, the next day, when I woke up, I noticed that all of the money that was stolen from me was returned back. And miracles that I didn't even know that could happen just manifested itself. And I just couldn't believe that. Like, I didn't have to write letters. I didn't have to call people. Things had just settled on its own. And what I just want to say is that when you work with divinity, when you work at a higher level realm, you're able to attract solutions that you couldn't even have thought were imaginable on your own. And that's because our mindset might be down here, but everything else is available to us up here. All you need to do is surrender it, let it go, and release it to a higher level place where you're blessing people. You're choosing through conscious choice of affirming what you want to believe in. And then one thing I should have mentioned too is that in the place of darkness, when I was dealing with all this emotion, I wanted to stop this energy and wanted to do something physical in this 3D world to stop the spinning cycle to downward spiral me. So what I did was I chose to bless somebody, a single mother, with an abundant amount of stuff. These were things that I was just actually going to drop off anyway to like a Goodwill center, but something rose within me to bless one person, specifically change one life. So when this was happening, I communicated with her. I had it picked up and it was packaged beautifully. And I really wanted to bless her with this. And that then brought happiness into my own heart. And then by affirming this over and over into my head again, it made me really just target my thoughts into a higher level place instead of falling victim into this place of unhappiness, into victimhood. So the other thing I wanted to tell you that whenever you're in this place of really toxic energy, when you're forced to go through something that's so hard and unimaginable, when somebody's really hurt you, if you're having really hard arguments, or if there's something you're trying to avoid, even that you can't speak to anymore, perhaps isn't even here, I want you to say the Ho'oponopono prayer, and I'm going to be doing a segment only on this. But for now, I want you to hold this prayer in your heart. And any time that you're dealing with life and circumstances that are not in alignment to happiness and joy and peace, I want you to say this prayer in your heart, because this is what's going to ignite those miracles, to take that spiky energy within you, around you, and in your life, and neutralize them. And when spikiness is neutralized, that is the state of 0 point. And that is the place of the calm waters Jesus talks about. This is the place where divinity can step into your life in this place of calmness, which is what shows them you trust. They can take this and create miracles. It's literally energy that they're remanipulating. And instead of it attracting lower energy forces, it's now taking this neutral energy and attracting higher energy forces to then up level and bless you. So the Ho'oponopono prayer is only 4 sentences. And if you have a pen, I want you to write this down too. It is, I am sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. And I love you. These 4 sentences are going to transform your life. And let me tell you my own personal story of what I mean. So years ago, I was taught about this prayer, and this prayer has the power, it years ago back in the state of Hawaii, there was this hospital that was really, really toxic, full of hardened criminals that were convicted of murder, rape, unimaginable crime. And they were mentally institutionalized within a hospital. And this hospital required to have a doctor present that was full-time and working. But because it was such a toxic environment, they could not hold down a long-term doctor, never mind staff, because everybody was terrified to show up. They were calling in sick, they were quitting, they were leaving early, and all of this was creating and propelling an even unhealthier environment. The criminals were all in confinement, isolation, and they were unable to see everybody, which then ignited their own level of increased rage. So they were just desperate at this place to find somebody to work at this hospital. They were interviewing doctors. All the doctors learned about the story and they wanted nothing to do with it until there was one doctor who was able to come in and he's like, listen, like, I'm going to show up and I'm going to do whatever I want, but you can't question me. And they're like, listen, we don't even care. Just show up. So he did. And at first, his staff was like pretty annoyed with him. Like, who is this guy? Like, we just hired him. He doesn't leave his office. We had like a 9 a.m. staff meeting. He didn't even show up. Like, who is this guy? And everyone's very huffy and puffy, also igniting to this rage. But what they realize is that, days in, weeks in, months in, the energy that was so toxic and spiky and hardened was suddenly becoming softer and peaceful and more calmer. People were actually smiling again and talking to each other nicely, and the criminals weren't trying to kill each other when they're when they're in this passing by state. They were all of a sudden showing kindness and respect to the staff. And they realize that there's some, like, what is happening? And the only thing that they can realize that was different was this doctor. And they asked the doctor, like, what is it that you're doing? And the doctor is like, listen, I am doing something. It's an ancient prayer called Ho'oponopono. And he was showing them all of the inmates' photos. And all he would do during the day is look at the photo and say, I'm so sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. And I love you. And it's not that he even had any responsibility for any of these crimes. He didn't even know who these people were. But the analogy is that any time that a person or energy comes to you, it is your responsibility to clean it, to take that spikiness and to neutralize it to zero state, because that is a place where miracles can happen and bless everybody. So what was happening throughout this time frame is that the energy became so healthy and peaceful and joyful. There was such communal companionship and camaraderie amongst the prisoners and the staff that some of these prisoners were relocated to a lot better facilities. Some of them were let go for good behavior. And eventually this actually closed altogether because there were no inmates that needed to be there. And this is the place of miracles that exist. So when I heard about this story, I was so intrigued by it, but I really didn't even know if this works. Like how does this work in real life, you know? And it was about 4 years ago for me when my little guy was about 5, and he and I were in this place of, I don't know, mother and son, but we're just like fighting and not understanding each other and really just getting so frustrated because we couldn't see eye to eye on anything. And this was so unlike us because like he is my best buddy. Like I love him more than the whole world. And that's how he is with me. But it was just a short period of time that like something and energy was off between us. And one night it was becoming so bad that my husband was like, listen, you guys need to take a break from each other. And as a mother hearing this, it was so devastating for me. Like I couldn't even believe that the father was saying this to the mother about like my own baby that I adore more than this whole world. And I was like, oh my gosh, like what is happening? I just didn't understand what was happening. So I decided to say this prayer, and I was all by myself going to sleep, tucked in my bed, and I just closed my eyes. And I'm like, guys, praying. I was like, if this is really real, like, let's do this. And I closed my eyes and I just imagined a little stage in front of me with, those old fashioned stages with that drapery that closes. I imagined the stage, and underneath the drapery, I can see two little shoes. And what you need to know that in this world of imagination is actually even more real than this physical 3D world that we're sitting in, more real than the chair that I'm sitting in. So I was looking upon the stage and I saw these two little shoes underneath the curtain. And the curtain opened and there was my little boy. And I looked at him and he looked at me. He's like, hi, mommy. I'm like, hi, buddy. And I just ran up to him and I took his hands and I looked in his eyes and I was like, Chasey, I love you so much. I am so sorry for all of this energy that's been happening. I'm so sorry for how I've been reacting to it. I'm so sorry how I've been making you unhappy. Please forgive me. Thank you for allowing me to be your mother. Thank you for allowing me this opportunity to talk to you soul to soul. And I just kept saying, I love you. I love you. I love you. And I just fell asleep at that time, just hugging him and kissing him. And it was in this place of him being on stage, me being on stage, just hugging and falling asleep, that in the middle of the night, my little boy ended up coming into our room, into the middle of our bed, and hugged me. He was sleeping and hugging me. And I realized this was happening while I was sleeping and I was hugging him back. And that morning, my husband woke up to see both of us hugging each other. And he looked at us and he was like, first of all, he's like, wow, that's so cute. And then he's like, wait, this is kind of strange. Like they were trying to kill each other the night before. But he just left and we ended up waking up to each other and realized that we're hugging each other and we just smiled. And I can tell you with my whole heart that that spiky energy, whatever it was in our house that was consuming us, that was consuming our minds and our thoughts, that energy had dissipated and was let go. It's as if it no longer existed in our house. We woke up, we had breakfast, we were joking around, like we were like ourselves. We were our true, authentic selves, and that energy never came back. It's not to say that we've never had any disagreements, as a mother and a son, but we're able to go through them and not hold this toxic energy that's like paralyzing you down, right? So what I want to say is that forgiveness through the prayer of Ho'oponopono. I am so sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. I love you. Is what will help to change the frequency in your life. The affirmation of I choose to see miracles instead of this is the frequency that will transform and rise you above the test. Because whenever we're faced with tests and trials, our prayer should never be, I don't want to experience this. Please make it go away. That's not what we want. Because if it's in front of us, the worst thing we can ever do is avoid it, because avoidance will cause the energy to actually increase, or you're forced to face it because you have nowhere to go but look at it. And at that time, it's become an enormous monster. So when you're experiencing an issue that is hard and it's difficult and you don't know how to get out of it and it looks like it's hopeless, I want you to remember these words of I choose to see miracles instead of this. And in your mind, bless that person as hard as it is. And then with your hands, do something physical to bless somebody else in this world. And I can tell you with my whole heart, my mind, my soul, as a divine channel, is that this is how we win. This is what this experience of being in this world is all about. There's always duality. There's always two sides of the same coin. There's light and darkness. We're meant to experience both. We're meant to experience the full gamut. But the true lesson of if we really understood the lesson is if we can rise above it and still be loving and peaceful versus turning into an angry green monster that is keeping us stuck and paralyzed in fear and unhappiness. Are you going to be the successful businessman, or are you going to be the alcoholic son? That is the question. This is how life tests us. Are we going to become better, or are we going to become bitter? So my friends, I want to thank you for being here. This was a really important lesson, and it's something that I had to experience myself. But if you continue to take the path forward of choosing right, doing right, being right, especially when it looks like your efforts are not making a difference, you will be paid in double, because all of the light that you're creating in heaven will be manifested even larger to you on Mother Earth. I thank you, I love you, and namaste. If this resonated, please put a heart emoji, and I shall talk to you again. All my love.
Thank you for listening to today's podcast. If you are ready to heal your deepest wounds and manifest your greatest life, I welcome you to explore the blueprint to your $1 million life, the divinely channeled program that is creating miracles for people all over the world. Visit www.stephmahony.com.